Hello and welcome to today's video. You are with me with the Apex Mind and Body YouTube channel / Instagram account. That is myself, James. Coming up with a new name because I want to spin off just away from fitness content, but also to thought-provoking concepts and ideas for young men. So who knows, channel name might stick, might not. But for now it's Apex Mind and Body. So, Apex, meaning the top of the tree, and you know, that's pretty top tier. That wasn't so much top tier. I'm just going to click on that so you can see it. Quite a big change there, guys. So how long do you think that took? Months? Years? Well, I actually did that in less than 7 weeks. Now, the process to do that was incredibly simple. It just wasn't that easy. But I'm going to outline everything on this piece of card today to show you exactly how I did it, the protocol I used, no bullshit, and I'm going to show you basically how you can do the same. So starting from the beginning, I might not look too great there, but I actually had a fair bit of muscle mass. All I needed to do was strip back the body fat I had to reveal some of the lean muscle tissue that I had underneath. So this was coming out of the first lockdown. I did a massive perma bulk for about 6 months to try and regain as much size as possible. And then I got pretty fluffy and hated the way I looked, so I did a cut. And in less than 7 weeks' time, this is the results I came out with. So again, I'll just focus on that for you. Less than 7 weeks, guys. Now that's crazy. It's pretty aggressive fat loss, and I'm going to go through each step right now. Right, so how do you lose fat and not the muscle that we built? Right, okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do, step 1, this is a calorie deficit. Now, what do we mean by calorie deficit? If you already know, feel free to skip along, but calorie deficit basically means that you intake fewer calories than you burn off. So there are a few means of calculating this online. You might just want to go on like an energy expenditure calculator or use MyFitnessPal, but you basically want to try and use an app which will tell you your maintenance calories for staying the same weight as you are right now, i.e. based on your body weight and the amount of exercise that you do, how many calories would you need to eat roughly to stay exactly the same. Then you want to go a few hundred calories under that, 300 to 500 calories under your maintenance, and that will put you in a very good spot for losing fat very aggressively. So, you've established you need to be in a calorie deficit. You can go and watch a ton of videos on how to work that out. I've just outlined it briefly. That is step 1. Step 2, intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting is where you basically delay your first meal of the day. It's basically a fancy way of saying skipping breakfast. So, by doing this, you are essentially delaying your eating window to a smaller period of time. So for instance, if I wake up somewhere between 7 and 8 AM every day, I would typically delay my first meal until at least 12 o'clock the same day, sometimes longer depending on if I was working or if I was off and how hungry I was throughout that time period. But I would always try and make it till at least 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock every single day. Now, one of the best tools for doing this is black coffee. Now, black coffee in itself contains near enough no calories. It's basically an appetite suppressant, and the caffeine intake in there helps to keep your energy levels high, and it also acts as a natural appetite suppressant. So it's a fantastic tool for helping you maintain the fast and push back your first meal. So you combine the calorie deficit and the intermittent fasting. The intermittent fasting is basically just a layer within the calorie deficit. It just makes eating fewer calories easier. There are some benefits to do with hormone regulation, insulin sensitivity, and all the rest of it, which may be very slight, but the main benefit of intermittent fasting is it shortens your eating window to a smaller period of time. It helps push back the first meal of the day, such as breakfast, and you can use those calories for later in the day as long as you adhere to your calorie deficit, and it just makes being in a calorie deficit a lot easier. Now, the one thing I will mention about intermittent fasting is don't allow it to be a tool to use for binging. So make sure that you don't get so ravenously hungry that when your first meal does come around, you don't just binge, because that will defeat the entire purpose of doing the fasting, to be in a calorie deficit. So I know a lot of people don't like fasting because it means that they just want to binge eat, and then they binge eat and it defeats the whole point of doing a cut. So I get that, but if you do the correct protocol of enjoying, not waking up thinking about food, just wake up, do what you want to do, think about work, think about anything other than food, and then eat your first meal of the day after that 4 to 6 hour fasting period. So try and fast for 4 to 6 hours firstly. And black coffee, 1 or 2 of these will help you on your way. This is actually decaf. Step 3. I tried to get in at least 10,000 steps a day. So I got myself a little smartwatch off Amazon, and that tracked all of my daily steps. So why steps are such a great tool and not another form of exercise? They don't dramatically spike your hunger. Now, when you're trying to adhere to a calorie deficit, the last thing you want is to have such bad hunger that you're not enjoying the process and you just want to eat loads of food. Because then you'll not be able to stick to your calorie deficit, and it'll be hard as fuck. Go on, I'll swear. It'll be hard as fuck. But by doing steps, it doesn't particularly make you hungrier. But if you do 10,000 steps, that's quite a few hundred calories that you've burned. So you're basically further chipping into the amount of calories that your body is not getting, and it's using to accelerate fat loss when you combine that with your calorie deficit. So you combine a calorie deficit of 300 to 500 calories with a few hundred calories burned from a 10,000 step walk every day, and you suddenly find yourself in quite a steep deficit and in a very, very good situation to burn a lot of fat. So the next step, what else was I doing? Well, in terms of my resistance training routine, this was actually during lockdown. I said this was no gym. Like, to do this, let me just stress the fact that transformation right there had no involvement of a gym. Didn't have access to any significant amount of weight, any machines, anything. All I had was 2 adjustable dumbbells, which went up to 20 kilos each, a pull-up bar on the door frame, and bodyweight exercises. So right there, that fat loss phase was done entirely with just home workouts of a push-pull leg split, done rinse and repeat. So push-pull legs, rest, 6 days on, 1 day off. Very minimal equipment. But that was essential to try and retain some of the muscle mass that I had, and so it didn't all just get wasted away when I cut. Like I said, when you do a cut, you don't want to lose all your muscle mass. You want to try and retain as much muscle mass as possible, so you need to make sure you're still resistance training. But of course, when you combine the calorie deficit with the resistance training, with the 10,000 steps a day, it helps to maintain the muscle mass, and just the fat comes off. Obviously, you will always lose some muscle mass. It's impossible to retain it all, but we want to try and keep as much of it as possible. So the only other thing I did for cardio, I bought a spin bike off Gumtree, and I maybe did it twice a week for 30 to 40 minutes. Again, wasn't super necessary, but I did it mainly for fitness purposes and just to burn a few more calories each week on a bike. Now, eating. This is the big part. This helps you come to the calorie deficit. This is what will fuel your body. So obviously I've mentioned calorie deficit, but the one way to do this so that you don't get hungry is to eat high volume, low calorie foods, and you combine that with a really high protein intake. So that is the most important part of this video along with calorie deficit, and that's high volume foods with a really high protein intake. So examples of this, a lot of vegetables, stir-fry vegetable kits, broccoli, green beans, cabbage, spinach. Combine that with lean cuts of chicken breast, super lean mince, lean fish. You want to put in some fibrous plant-based proteins like beans, lentils, any legume. I started using egg whites for the first time. But you want to get the most of your calories, or the majority of your meals, to come from the low calorie, high volume vegetables, lean meats, egg whites and beans, and it'll just keep you full. Technically, I could have achieved this transformation just eating McDonald's, but it would have left me incredibly hungry. I wouldn't have got enough protein, and I would have been going to bed every night. I would have been struggling to sleep because of how hungry I was. But if you just smash huge bowls of salad and vegetables and cauliflower rice. Oh my god, you can eat so much cauliflower rice. Go to Tesco or Asda and get it in the frozen section. You can slap like 2 or 3 bags with some veg and some meat. Flavour it with some soy sauce and some like hot sauce. You've got a super high volume meal for so low in calories. You'll be so full, and all you have to do is get laser vision in, eat the same things, rinse and repeat, adhere to the calorie deficit, and you will just have the results guaranteed. And then the last thing that comes straight back onto that again is consistency. So for those 7 weeks, I didn't have a cheat day. I had a strategic refeed day, which you'll be able to go back in my YouTube videos and watch from back earlier in the year. But yeah, no cheat days, because basically all you're doing is undoing the progress throughout the week. So if you get to Friday, Saturday and start slamming pizzas and Chinese and Indians because you've done so well throughout the week, you've got to see it as net calories for the week. And if having those cheat meals puts your net calories back at either maintenance or even in a surplus, you're just going to stay the same. So to get to there, you have to make sure that your calorie deficit is adhered to. But that's pretty much it. It's this incredibly simple process, and people make it out to be harder than it needs to be. You can follow any diet you want on Earth. You can be paleo, keto, vegan, carnivore. Losing weight always comes down to being in a calorie deficit, and it's as simple as that. Obviously, there are a few more points to being in a calorie deficit, such as maintaining a high protein intake, doing the resistance training, and eat the higher volume, low calorie foods to help you stay full. But it's that simple. And obviously, if you like intermittent fasting, coffee is a great tool to keep you feeling satiated by having bigger meals later in the day rather than spacing them out so much. But again, if intermittent fasting doesn't work for you and you hate it, just make sure that you have a low calorie, high protein breakfast, which is again as much volume for your calories that you're having as possible, and you'll fly. But again, if this didn't make too much sense and you want to ask me anything in more detail, drop me a comment down below. If anybody wants one-on-one coaching or anything like that, I am open to helping people. Just drop me a comment with a request, and I can get in touch with you guys directly, and I'll put plans together. Again, I can make bespoke training programs to the needs and to your level of training knowledge, and how many days a week you want to train, or if you want to lose fat, gain muscle, whatever you want, just let me know and I'll try and help you out where possible. But hopefully this has made it simple. There's a lot of bullshit information out there, and it really is quite simple. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more content.